So Ford is going to get rid of all their sedans except for one. Let's talk about that. Welcome back to the Step Next Training Channel. I'm Kevin Kunkel, and today we're talking about product line and market cannibalization. So I did a video on this a couple weeks ago, and I'll show a video of that right now just to give you a reminder of some of the highlighted points of what we were talking about before. The gist of this video is that Ford's sedan product line, their products overlap on top of each other, creating market cannibalization. Well, the news story that's coming out about Ford is they're going to eliminate all the sedan products from the product line except for one. So let's get into the details of what that means, what that could do, why they are positioning in this way. So let's get into the details and why they would even think about doing this. They have these products that are true and tested, and yet they're going to eliminate those products. So this is a graph, a bar graph of all the products in the Ford product line and how much they're selling. Now, of course, this juggernaut up here, this amazing product that they're selling crazy style, is the Ford F-Series truck. So the F-150s, the F-250s, 350s, etc. So this represents the F-Series trucks, right? So the F-150, F-250, 350, etc. This represents that. And in 2017 alone, they sold almost 900,000 units in the US. That's it. Just the US, 900,000 units. It's the best-selling vehicle in the world right now. Let's take a look at the other workhorses that they have. Everything that's colored red is a industrial product, if you will. So you have the F-150s, and I know that they sell for regular people as well, but they're also combined with work trucks, okay? So there's 900,000 units for that. Then you get down, this is the new transit van model, and it comes in many different orientations, and there's buses set up for it. There's a lot of electrical construction companies have these transit trucks. Then you go down to this, which is the E-Series van. Now, I haven't seen anybody driving around these E-Series vans in a long time personally. It seems like most businesses are transferred over to the transit, but the E-Series van is still selling here. And this is the small transit connect vehicle. So these are your workhorse models, if you will. So let's remove those items from the chart here. We remove those because we wanted to get to the sedans and the cars and the SUVs to do a comparison. There's one outlier here that's left, and that's the Mustang. We're going to also remove this because it's more of on the sports car side and not the sedan versus SUV argument that we're trying to get to the core of. So we're going to remove the Mustang as well. So what we have left is the core of the conversation, which is sedan versus SUV. What you see in lime green or light green is SUVs. What you see in dark green are the sedans in the Ford product line lineup. So let's get into the details. So the second most sold vehicle in the US for Ford is the Ford Escape, which I call a small SUV or a crossover. And depending on which list you look at, or they can say a small SUV, there's many different classifications, but regardless, it's the Escape. In 2017 alone, the Escape sold 308,000 units. That's really impressive. You step over to the Explorer, probably the most well-known SUV out there, the Explorer. The Explorer sold 271,000 units. That's really good as well. Now we get into the sedans. Now this is the Fusion, comparable to a Honda Accord size vehicle. They call that a mid-size. Some classifications call it mid-size. We'll call it mid-size. And then the smaller, which is the Focus. Then the next one here is the Edge. Now, the Edge has never really fallen into a category that I think represents what the Edge is. In my world, it's like an X4. It's that compact, larger SUV. It's hard to explain, but it shot off really well, and it's done very well for itself. But then there's a big step down. This is the Expedition. This is the large SUV category, and it's only selling around 51,000 units each year. That's pretty low. But what's lower are the two remaining cars in this lineup. You have the Fiesta, which only sold 46,000 units last year in 2017, and the Taurus, or the Ford 500, and that only sold 41,000. So I want to talk about these two first. These two are the most dying segments across all the vehicles that we're talking about. And it's not just for Ford, it's across all the different manufacturers. The subcompact market is dying, and the large or extra large sedan market is also dying. So at what rate are they dying? So the Fiesta itself is declining 15% each year. Okay, so in 2015 they sold 64,000, and in 2017 they only sold 46,000. That's a big decline for this market. Now it's not just Ford. If I go over to Toyota, the Yaris or Yaris or however you're supposed to say it, Yaris is also on the same sort of decline. So it's declining almost 24% per year itself, the Yaris. So that subcompact market is really getting hit really hard across all the manufacturers. Now, the large sedan has been on the decline very much so, and the reason is because everybody's stepping out of those large sedans and into an SUV. Different sizes of SUV, but there's a lot of statistics that show people stepping out of these large sedans and into the SUV market. If they want that bigger size and they want that more luxury edition of the vehicle they are looking at, they step up into the SUV. So there's a huge decline in that large to extra large sedan market. So the Taurus itself has been declining around 7% per year, but it didn't really have a large part of the market really. So that Taurus had small amount to start from and has been declining only 7% per year. But they know that this market is dying overall. If you go and look at the Toyota Avalon, which is in the same size of this, the Avalon itself has been declining 22% per year as well. So the market for these two, the subcompact and the extra large sedan, has been declining and is going to be gone in the near future. So I'm going to actually take these two away. The Taurus actually has a current end date, and they're not going to renew that model line. And the Fiesta, I think, has a long-term plan, but I think that's also going to go away, because what they're saying is they're only going to keep this one, which is the Focus. So if you're in the market of a Fiesta and you go to the Ford lot, they're going to push you into a Focus. Maybe they're doing that already today to step you up into a more expensive vehicle, but that's what they're going to aim for. People in the smaller subcompact market, they're going to push people into the Focus going forward. So I'm going to take these two away so we don't have any more conversation about it. Now, before we go any further, I want to bring this into the limelight here. So this here represents the decline of the American sedan. Okay, so this represents the last 10 years of market share that sedans have had. So we went up a little, and now we're declining down each year, year after year. So since 2012, we've been on a decline year after year in the non-luxury market for sedans. And if you go to the luxury market, it's even more pronounced. There's been a decline since 2010, year after year, of the sedan market. But so I show you that to also show you this. This is the increase of the SUV market. And as a matter of fact, if you didn't notice, it's crossed over and taking more of a majority than the sedan market itself. So the SUV is on a large increase and the sedans are on a large decrease. That's important because it's what's driving this market forward. And if you're in the industry, if you're in the car industry, you need to know that the statistics are not in your favor if you're running a product line with a lot of sedans in it. You want to be running a large product line within the SUV market. Now, what's really interesting is the luxury models that are coming out recently in the SUV market. So Lamborghini has one now, Bentley has one now, Maserati has one now, Jaguar has a whole bunch. They said at their early stages that they would never go and actually introduce an SUV. They got them now. Even the luxury market is figuring out this trend for the American population and is creating products for that population. But I'm going to put this aside. That large sedan, it's going away. The subcompact is going away. What's left is the mid-size vehicles. Now, why is this so important? Well, I want to show you one thing. In 2015, in comparison to 2017, this used to be what the market looked like for Ford. So they had the Escape, and right behind it was the Fusion. And then the Explorer, and then right behind that was the Fiesta. So just recently, there's been a huge decline in the Fusion and in the Fiesta, bringing down these products way down from where they were just 2 years ago. And so they're seeing this as a huge market decline in the sedan market frontrunners that Ford has been running for quite a while now. So now let's bring in, just as a comparison to where we stand with Ford, to the kings of the sedans and the small SUV. So let's bring in the juggernaut that is the RAV4. You can see that right there. So this is the RAV4 in comparison to the Escape. And this represents the Camry. So just recently, the Camry was unthroned in the Toyota lineup, and it has been replaced by the RAV4 as the best-selling vehicle that Toyota is offering in the US. Just recently, this has happened. In 2015, the RAV4 was only selling around 315,000 units, and the Camry was selling 430,000 units. Now the Camry is only selling 387 units, and the RAV4 is selling 407 units. So even in Toyota, they're seeing a flip-flop, the same flip-flop that we're talking about here. They're starting to see it within their product line as well. So the king that was Camry for Toyota has now been outthroned by the RAV4. Now that's an important jump, but also look at the comparisons of the Camry versus the Fusion now. So because of the decline of mid sedans, that Camry is just killing what's left of the Fusion itself. So because of that comparison, Ford is saying we're getting rid of our two low-hanging fruit, which is the Fiesta and the Taurus. but we're also looking at removing the Fusion from the product line as well. So what will be left in the car and SUV world, and not the truck and van world, but in the car and SUV world, is going to be this lineup here. Except they're going to add a couple more product lines. They're going to add the Ford Bronco. That's coming back. And questions of whether or not that's actually going to have a hybrid model version of that Ford Bronco or not is a good question. But there's also another SUV being talked about as well. So those would be two more SUVs within this lineup. They're understanding the data and they're responding to it with completing their lineup to reflect where the market is going. And that's very interesting, and I'm not sure if they're going to win the SUV market with these new products, or whether or not they're going to get hurt because they only have one product within the sedan world anymore. Now, what that means to me is now they're, instead of having market cannibalization within the sedan market and not allowing the customer to find what they're really looking for, they're now going to create market cannibalization within the SUV world with 5-ish SUVs that the customer is going to go to the market and say, what am I going to buy today? And maybe all of these will slowly get hit because of the new products. It's very questionable whether or not they're going to now create market cannibalization within the SUV market. And because of the market cannibalization in the sedan market, now they've gone the opposite way. They've swung the pendulum a little too far the opposite way and only going to rely on one sedan to carry that entire market. So if I was running the product lineup of Ford, what I would do is, instead of eliminating the Fusion, I would bring back the Fusion. But I would make it a little pricier than what it was, and I would take the Focus and make it less pricey than what it is now, dividing a large separation of cost between these two products. The other thing I would do is I would take this Edge and I would chuck it. I would get rid of that Edge. I think it's a confusing product that doesn't allow you to really focus in on what you're trying to get out of this SUV product line. So keep the Escape, divide out the price between the Escape and the Explorer, and also divide out the Explorer price from the Expedition, creating a separation between all of these products, allowing no overlap in pricing. Then I would take and I would create a subcompact SUV, a very small SUV. If you look at Toyota and Honda, they're creating this subcompact crossover, and that subcompact crossover market is growing very quickly. If you take a look at Toyota's version, which is the CHR, that product introduced in 2017, brand new. Nobody even knows about it. Doesn't have any name history at all. And it's now outselling the Toyota Avalon and the Yaris combined month after month. So that, to me, is a market that Ford isn't going after yet, that I think is absolutely needed within this product line. Now, maybe that's what that new SUV that they're slightly talking about is going to be, is that small SUV. But I think that product line is needed. The other thing I would do is I would market the Bronco not against any of these other SUVs, but somewhat of a performance SUV. Link it to the nostalgia that the Mustang has, keep the retro styling that we've seen in the prototypes, and release that in a way that is really geared to off-roaders in that Jeep market, and second, to the performance market. So put a big engine in it. Put a big off-road package on it. Make sure that it doesn't overlap within these other SUVs and confuse the market of the other SUVs. I would actually keep it as a two-door SUV and not allow it to overlap with the Explorer or the Escape in any way. I would keep it as a performance off-road package SUV. which I think Ford could use. But the way they're talking right now is they're talking about having a hybrid version and all these other versions. Whereas where you need the hybrids are in these two product lines, and bring down the gas mileage for these two. That's where it's really needed. So that's what I would do with the Ford lineup, is I would arrange it this way, having 2 sedans going after that market share, 2 new SUVs that are going after different markets than what you currently have already lined up, and making sure that you have a division between those 2 new SUVs and your current lineup. You don't want to have overlap of this lineup. So that's my recommendation. Now, I know Ford's not going to take that recommendation, but that's my recommendation of what you would do if you were running Ford. Now, this can be applied to various other product lines. This kind of theory could be utilized in other product lines. And if you want me to look at your product line and analyze what I would do, or give you suggestions of how to keep market cannibalization away from your products, give us a call at stepnexttraining.com or email us at stepnexttraining@gmail.com. And if you agree or disagree with my suggestions or my analysis of all these different products, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Well, thanks again for watching, and if you like this, please give us a thumbs up down below and leave a comment, and we'd love to have the conversation. And if you want to see more, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. And I'll leave you with this: make, share, repeat. Thanks everybody for watching. Bye-bye.